Well, hello, Brian King here, coming to you at 9:30 a.m. on a Friday as promised. And I am hoping that this is going to go smoothly. I'm using a new software to try and add some more bells and whistles to this. And let me know if you're here and chiming in. That would be wonderful. So while we are waiting for you to join us, let's get with the program. What I said that I was going to talk about is what is the most important thing, or what is a most important thing to ask when your child has sensory processing issues. Well, first of all, let's talk about what that is, sensory processing disorder. What it is it refers to the fact that as human beings, we have a very complex nervous system. And as human beings, we need to be able to take in all of the senses, all of the information coming in through our senses, and then combine those in order to have a comprehensive picture of the world around us. So that requires that everything is in sync. Well, if things are out of sync, then you have a sensory processing disorder. And there's actually an awesome book, one of the first ones I came across when I first learned that my oldest boy, Zach, had Asperger's. It's called The Out of Sync Child. It's pretty much canon when it comes to, studying the autism spectrum or ADHD. It's a must. Okay, so I highly recommend that. One thing that I learned about myself is that my hearing and my vision are out of sync. Okay? And one thing that we tend to do as human beings is when we're looking at a person's face, maybe we'll look at their lips as they're speaking, we'll look at certain gestures. But if your eyes are coming in at one speed and your audio is coming in at another speed, you're looking at a person talking while you're hearing the person talking, and your brain sees that they're out of sync and says, what the hell is this person talking about? Because with a brain that is in sync, you can see their nonverbal, you hear their verbal, and your brain puts them together and says, yes, this person is communicating, and their nonverbal communication matches their verbal communication. So I can put this in my brain and know what they're saying. But if I see nonverbal at one rate, and I hear verbal at another rate, those inconsistencies collide, and I'm like, what the hell is this person talking about? So what do I need to do? I need to put my eyes someplace else and just listen to this person. Hence the eye contact issue that is so frequently put out there. You have to look a person in the eyes when you talk, because that's how they know you're listening. Well, what if my eyes and my ears are out of sync? And I can look at you and give you all the eye contact you want, but still not know what the hell you're talking about. Would you rather be understood, or would you rather have eye contact? There has to be some flexibility here, folks. And that's the way it needs to work. So that's just one example. I'm going to go a lot deeper into a lot of these conversations, okay? So let's start by getting into what the senses are, okay? There's a misnomer out there, and guess what I did for you? And I'm going to switch right now. I created a little list here so that you don't have to scurry and remember. Hopefully they're on the screen and you can see them. Is the senses that we do have. There's a misnomer that there's 5, and that's all we learn about. Sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Well, in my studies, I learned from, and there's a lot of opinions on this in terms of what the senses are, so don't take this as, God's truth. But one article that I read many, many years ago that really made a lot of sense to me, the person that wrote it suggested that there are subsets of the sense of touch, okay? Because he said touch is not just touch. It's also the sensation of temperature, pressure, and pain all through the skin. And those need to be taken into consideration as separate entities, okay? Because you might meet a kid that likes all the deep pressure in the world, but is really sensitive to hot or cold. My boys have the temperature sensitivities. My younger two, Connor and Aiden, want to wear sweatshirts everywhere they go in the slightest possibility that there is a chill. Okay. And my oldest son, Zach, has certain touch sensitivities. He does not want to be hugged. If he does, it's like hugging the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. Very, very stiff. And he likes to wear shorts. He likes to wear light clothing. He doesn't like a lot of, heavy stuff on him. So he'll go out in the dead of winter wearing barely anything. And he'll say, oh, well, I'm not going to be outside that long. I'm just going to the bus, or, I'm just going from the bus to the school. And I say, well, what if there's a fire drill? Oh, well, that doesn't happen that often. Then later on that day, I get a text that, hey, there was a fire drill and I'm freezing my ass off. Surprise, surprise. Okay. Then the remaining senses are proprioception and vestibular. So basically, we have a total of 10 senses potentially that our brain is trying to bring in, organize, and create a comprehensive picture of the space that we live in. Okay. So I'll explain to you what proprioception and vestibular are, and then I'll tell you what one of the most important questions to ask if your kid has sensory processing disorder. Proprioception refers to our body's relationship with gravity, okay? The nerves are in our joints, they're in our large muscles, and if you're sitting up or laying down, those nerves register gravity differently. If you're laying down, you feel the pressure, you sink into your mattress. And so that tells the proprioceptive nerves, I'm laying down now because of the input coming in through my back and my legs and so on. So that's proprioception. Vestibular is related to your inner ear. And it tells your brain when your head is moving. So if it's right to left, if you're looking around, if you're doing a somersault, if you're in a plane and there's turbulence, if your vestibular senses are out of whack, those experiences can be very rattling. I don't do roller coasters. I really hate air travel. I get dizzy when I'm at the store and I see a grocery cart come past me that's moving, because if I'm looking at it, and this is another out of sync moment for me, if I'm looking at it, my vision and my vestibular are out of sync. So if I was able to look at something that was moving and my body was still, I would stay still and just look at the thing that's moving. But because they're out of sync, when I see the cart coming past me, I start to tip and follow it. Because for some reason, my brain interprets that as I'm moving too, and it starts to move me. So I need to be careful of what moving objects I see. So you get a sense of just how difficult this can be for us. So let me check really quick, see if there's any questions. Nope, so far so good. Okay, so let me switch back to me for a moment so we can have a heart-to-heart, okay? Hang on one second, new technology. There we go. Okay. One of the most important questions that you need to ask if you or your child has sensory processing disorder is this. What are the POTS? Okay, I'm a big acronym fan. And in this case, POTS stands for problems of the space. What problems are there in the space that you are going to be expected to take in all the information of your environment and create a comprehensive picture of it so you can respond in an organized way? So if you have light sensitivity and you are in a room with a lot of sunlight coming in on your face or fluorescent lighting on, that is a problem of the space, because it is interfering with your light sensitivity. It's making it harder for you to be there. My youngest son, Connor, wears sunglasses everywhere he goes. There are some times where it'll be dark and he's still wearing his sunglasses because he's afraid that suddenly a light source will show up and hurt him. So he just feels more comfortable wearing his sunglasses. when he was younger, and I think he still has this hearing sensitivity, he would cover his ears when he watched the TV, because during that time, you know how the commercials would come on and they'd be louder? He was afraid of that happening because it startled him. So he always had his ears covered. And we introduced him to foam earplugs and earmuffs, and he began using those for a while. Another problem of the space, let me say some more about light sensitivity. If you have a floor with a high shine, because they wax it or they clean it and they use something glossy, and you're trying to turn your eyes away from these fluorescent lights or the sunlight only to look at a floor that has this sheen on it and lights bouncing back in your face. I had that difficulty in grocery stores because the fluorescent light bugs my eyes, but there's really hardly any other place I can look because there's all these reflective surfaces. So you might find this with a child that has light sensitivity. They're squinting a lot and they're, turning their gaze away, and you're not sure what's going on, and maybe they don't know what's going on. And it could very well be a light sensitivity. Or a hearing sensitivity. Certain pitches, certain frequencies that maybe don't bother you one bit, and you think this child should just learn to cope better, but you have no understanding of the fact that these sounds may hurt. Okay? Sometimes the small squeak of one of those markers on a dry erase board, or somebody moving in their chair, can be so distracting that it's hard for the student to regain their composure and their focus on you again. And there's the term I heard for this, I don't know if it's the most correct, but the term I heard was omnidirectional hearing, which means not only you hear everything, but you don't know where it's coming from. You know there's a noise, but you can't pick the direction. So your brain is trying to figure out where's this coming from so that I can orient myself, and it can't figure it out. There are many times where I have this difficulty that I hear a sound, but I don't know what direction to look. So I just start looking everywhere in hopes that I can find whatever is making the sound. If there is a sound in the next classroom, and maybe it's a little bit more stimulating than what the teacher's talking about, okay, so that's where I end up looking. It's just the reality. Anytime you go into a situation, it can be a classroom, it can be a boardroom, it can be a mall, a museum, whatever it is, it's important to ask that question first. What are the problems of the space that I need to take into consideration so that I can support my child who has the sensory processing issues, or so I can support myself? Because I want to be able to feel integrated as much as possible. I want to feel like I'm safe in that place, like I can function. Because I want to go there and be able to engage the environment in an effective way. And if there are things there that are going to dysregulate me, that's going to be a problem. And the solution is not, and I say this, I can't say this enough, the solution is not to learn to cope, to learn to deal with it. Okay? If you were clumsy, I would not put you on an ice rink and say, you need to cope with the fact that ice is slippery. No, I'm not going to give you skates or anything else to help you with your balance. You need to learn to cope. That is a big steaming pile of BS, and you know it. Okay? We need accommodations. We need tools to be able to manage it. If your kid needs to wear sunglasses in the classroom, leave him alone. Let him use what he needs. I want to share with you. One I heard many, many years ago when I first started consulting with schools. There was a young man who sat in the back of the classroom in one of his classes, and he always insisted on reading the morning newspaper. In fact, he would have it spread out on his desk, and he'd be holding it up, and he'd be reading the paper when the teacher was lecturing. Well, this did not make the teacher happy, as you can imagine. And we asked the teacher, well, what is the issue with him reading the newspaper? The teacher said, it's a distraction. Okay, so the staff there did a little research. When they talked to the student, they said it helped him focus. My guess is, in part, he probably became overstimulated visually in the classroom. So the paper served to block everything out so he could just tune into his ears. And there are also some kiddos that they need to see words as they're hearing them. My oldest son, Zach, is like that. He is unable to watch a movie or TV without the subtitles on. He says without the subtitles, he doesn't know what people are talking about. So he needs to see the words and hear the words. So my guess is I've passed on that out of sync visual with the hearing. And I don't remember how they got this information, but they found out that the students basically didn't care that he read the newspaper. It was just a fact. It was just something they got used to. So the person who thought it was a distraction was the teacher. The teacher felt like he wasn't being heard. So that's why he didn't like it. So we gave the teacher a little challenge. We said, well, why don't you call on him? You know? See if he's listening to you. And so the teacher tried it out, and much to his, chagrin, because he thought he was right and we were going to scold this child and tell him to put his paper down, the teacher found out this kid was hearing every word he was saying. He was paying attention. He just needed the paper. So guess what the solution to this was? It wasn't to tell the child to be normal or be appropriate or put his paper down. The solution was let the kid read his paper, because that's how he's getting an education. Okay? It's unconventional, it breaks the rules, but it allows this kid to be effective. There was another young lady I heard about that, I think she was in grade school. She couldn't stand being in the classroom. She was always bothered, she was fidgety, and she just said, it smells in here, I don't like the smell. And everybody else going from their own perspective saying, I don't smell anything. What are you talking about? I don't smell anything at all. But this child was so aggravated by whatever she could smell that it was hard for her to be educated. And I don't remember how they got to the bottom of it, but what they discovered is that this young lady could smell the cleaner the janitor used on the desks. And once they determined that that was the case, that they switched the cleaner. And they switched it to something that she was used to just for that room. And she was fine. That was a problem of the space that would have normally been undetectable. And you would have said to the child, oh, this child is fidgety and hyper, and we need to calm her down, and we need to give her medication. And fortunately, this child could self-advocate enough that she could say what the issue was. But it's important to keep all of your senses in mind, because there are so many ways they can be violated, in even the most subtle ways. And when we're talking about 10 senses here, some of the sensations can be extremely overwhelming, and we are not going to say to our kids, deal with it. You need to be more resilient. You need to learn to cope better. Folks, I'm 47 years old, okay? I have proprioceptive issues. I have vestibular issues. When I go to the detergent aisle at the store, my nose burns like I just inhaled kerosene because I have that smell sensitivity. My oldest son, Zach, has a smell sensitivity. If he smells a food he doesn't like, he starts heaving like he's going to puke. Am I supposed to tell him, you need to learn to cope better? It's neurological. It's how he's wired. It's not an attitude. Okay? Attitudes, mindsets, that can be changed. Neurology, that's tougher. Now, there are some out there that say, well, you can do neurofeedback or biofeedback. And I frankly don't know enough about those technologies to really say yay or nay. But it's not an easy fix, and don't let people tell you that it is. The people that will tell you it is, don't get it, don't experience it, and think that everything that's different from them is wrong, weird, abnormal, and needs to be changed. We're not in this world to make them happy. We're in this world to learn how to make it work for us so that we can contribute. And working with our senses is only the beginning. So, once again, I could go for hours on this, but I wanted to give you that acronym so that you understood how to assess an environment effectively. Jessica chimed in here. She said biofeedback is amazing, but it's not easy. And it's also, not a one size fits all. There are some people that it'll work for and some people that really won't see any difference, or you'll see a difference for a while and you'll lose the progress. It's like an ADHD med. There's a percentage of the population that have ADHD and no medication will work. So the best advice is try it, see if it works for you. So I hope this has been helpful. I hope it came through smoothly. Like I said, I'm trying some new technology here, so I might have fumbled a little bit, but I hope the information I've given you is valuable. And please comment, tell me what was most valuable for you, and feel free to share this around as generously as you like. Again, I'm Brian King, and I will see you again soon.